Hello and welcome to or welcome back to Lauren's Legends. I hope that you are having a wonderful day. The story I have today is one of the absolute most incredible survival stories ever, and I'm excited to tell you about it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Jan Baalsrug was born in 1917 in what we now know as Oslo, Norway. As you know, Oslo is near the Arctic Circle. Jan grew up playing in the snow, and many people around him owned reindeer, and that was normal for them. While in his early 20s, the Germans invaded on April 9th, 1940. He quickly jumped in and helped fight, but he realized they were outmanned, and he and several others fled through the Soviet Union and found safety in the UK. While in the UK, he was itching to make a difference and get back and help. He joined the British company Linya, a part of the British Special Forces. His company consisted of 12 men. Their mission was called Operation Martin. Now, Operation Martin had two objectives. One, recruit other Norwegians to help join the resistance against the German occupation in Norway. Two, to transport and blow up a German airfield tower. This would greatly hinder the Germans' progress. In March of 1941, Jan and 11 other men set sail on their fishing boat. Excited because they were heading home and they were heading back to Norway. They were also excited because they were bringing their secret cargo. That cargo was 8 tons of explosives that they would use on the airfield tower. They sailed in through the steep fords. The fords gave them protection and allowed them to sail in undetected. When the unit reached the island of Rebinsoya, they docked the boat and they went ashore. They were supposed to meet with a secret contact that would help them get in and get them set up and secured. A man walked up, greeted them, and said his name, and it happened to be the exact name that they were looking for. Little did they know that this man was actually just a local storekeeper. He actually had the same exact name as the secret contact they were looking to meet. Now, with all the German forces that were in this area, the man unfortunately thought that he was being tested. So as soon as the unit went back and they were going towards their boat, he left and immediately went and let the Germans know that they were there. On the afternoon of March 29th, the Norwegian unit were on their boat working. Then out of nowhere, Gustavo's men attacked. The 12 men were completely blindsided. Thinking quickly, they dropped in the life raft. Jumping down on it, they lit the fuse to the explosives. In the chaos of 8 tons of explosives exploding, the Germans unfortunately still saw them. They rained down fire upon the small lifeboat, hitting it and sinking it. The men went into the ice-cold water, swimming for their lives. Unfortunately, one of the Norwegian men was hit at that time and sunk below. The Germans were descending upon them, and they ended up capturing 9 of the men. Jan and one of his comrades were able to make it to the snowy shore, and as soon as they hit the shore, they start running. The 9 men that were captured were tortured and then executed, and the Germans then sent men after the 2 that were running away. Knowing that they were being hunted, Jan and his comrade were running as fast as they possibly could to get away. But being soaking wet with ice-cold water and running through the snow, they could only run so fast, and Jan had lost a boot when he was swimming in the water, and they could hear the Germans gaining on them. Suddenly, shots rang out. Jan's companion dropped beside him, and Jan jumped behind a huge boulder. Lungs burning and hands shaking, he was faced with a decision: to fight or to die, and he chose to fight. He did still have his small Colt on him, and when the men were almost on him, he took aim and he shot, but his pistol was jammed. Right there, in the heat of the battle, he changed his mag and he dislodged the 2 bullets that were stuck in the chamber. He took his aim again, and then he was able to drop 2 of the Germans that were pursuing him, and the rest of them turned and ran away in fear. He was now the only survivor of his entire unit, but he had no idea that his hell had just begun. Jan began walking inland. He knew that the Germans still knew that he was out there and that they would not stop hunting him. He now had the unbelievable task of somehow getting to the safe zone in Sweden. As he was walking, he came across the village, and he went and he spoke to a family. He asked them for help, but he did tell them the dangers, and that family did decide to help him against all the odds. One of the most important things to Jan was to keep the people that were helping him safe, so he would go from home to home. But when the village heard that the Germans were coming through looking for him, he set back out on foot again. Jan stayed out in the wild and only sought help when he absolutely had no other choice. His feet were becoming badly frostbitten, and he ended up having to have one of the villagers' young daughters help him bandage them. As soon as she was finishing up with the bandages, her father ran in and let them know that the German forces were coming. Even though his feet were wounded, he did go back out into the wild. The Germans were not that far behind, but a horrible blizzard moved in. The snow and the wind were so bad that it froze his eyes shut. Even though he could not see, he actually welcomed the blizzard because it had stopped the Germans. He did know that he couldn't just sit there until his eyes got better. He somehow had to keep moving though. The only way that he could keep moving was by making snowballs and throwing them and listening to where they had landed. Basically blind, walking through several feet of snow, he accidentally triggered an avalanche. This avalanche threw him over 300 feet into the valley below. After being knocked out for who knows how long, he opened his eyes and he had officially gotten snow blindness at this point. Somehow, this blind man walked all the way to Furuflatten. A family had been out tending their animals and they saw him approaching. They ended up helping him and putting him in their warm barn. Somehow, someone in the village alerted the Germans that they had seen him, and the Germans came out to search the barn. Jan crawled as far back into the hay as he could, and the Germans actually ended up overlooking him. Staying in the barn allowed him a little bit of time to recover and rest. But during the rest, the gravity of how bad his feet were was becoming apparent. He had frostbite all over his toes and the bottom of his feet, and it was becoming harder and harder for him to walk. The villagers came together and decided to help this poor man. They put him on their small boat and they went out and pretended to go fishing and hid him under several blankets until they got to the shore. Jan tried to step off the boat and he couldn't. The only option that this group had at the time was to leave him in a small shed. They had to leave him for 9 days so they could go back and get a sled, and they also had to avoid arousing suspicion. Alone in the shed, he could tell that his feet were becoming extremely infected with gangrene. In horrible pain, this man pulled out his pocket knife and removed his big toe. Finally, the villagers returned with a sled, and they took him to a higher hiding spot on a plateau. There was a cave that he was able to be kept in. But getting to that cave, they narrowly hid themselves from a German unit that was passing through the area, and they had to leave him in there and get back to their village to not be detected. This time he was left though, he was left for 27 days, and he had to remove his remaining 9 toes. Oh. He was becoming delirious at this point. He was seeing hallucinations, and he began walking out of the cave aimlessly. An indigenous Norwegian tribe was passing through the area with their reindeer, and they came up on him. These kind people strapped him to their sled behind the reindeer and took him across several frozen lakes, avoiding the German troops, and got him all the way to the safety zone in Sweden. When he arrived, he had gone through 3 months out on the land. He had gotten down to only weighing 80 pounds, and it took him 6 months to fully recover physically, not mentally, but physically, from what had happened in the hospital. He also completely had to learn how to walk again. Once he had recovered, he wanted to keep helping the cause. He wanted to go after the men that had hurt his friends. The British Royal Air Force flew him back to the UK, and he began training soldiers going to battle. After the war, he became a massive Norwegian folk hero. He was posted all over the newspapers anywhere he went with his incredible survival story. But he stayed a very humble man. He didn't want the fame, and truthfully, he really wanted to forget the trauma that he had been through. Every single time that someone would try to interview him, he would always talk about the fact that he wouldn't be here without all the many people that helped him and put their lives and their family lives at risk to just save his. He still received a St. Olav's medal, and he was made a member of the British Empire. That's pretty awesome. In the later years of his life, he left the UK and he did go back to Norway. And he lived peacefully until the age of 71 and passed away in 1988. Is this story not mind-blowing? It's incredible what he himself endured, and having the wherewithal to keep going through all of the different challenges that came up after seeing people that you care about be executed and knowing that you're putting people in danger just by being alive. The story is absolutely incredible of how many people came to help him. So I just want to know, if you were in this situation, number one, do you think you could have gone through what he did? I don't know. I really like my toes. I think they're cute. I want to keep them. I don't know what I would do in that situation. Please, in the comment section down below, let me know. Thank you so much for watching this. I appreciate your support. Please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.